I have to tell you that in the November election, vote suppression cost Kamala Harris 3,565,000 votes.
Experience Karen Hunter in a completely different way. Karen Hunter is awesome. The podcast.
If you like me on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, you're gonna love me. And Karen Hunter is awesome. Hey, this is Karen Hunter, host of the Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM's Urban View. Karen Hunter is awesome is an actual podcast to bring heat and energy and knowledge and power. A 1-2 punch that I don't think you get anyplace else. Tell the truth. Check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. You will not be disappointed. I wanted to have you on more, but it would have been, right after the election, having these conversations about what happened.
Well, we got to have that conversation.
No, we do. But, December, January, after 100 days in, I think now we should have the conversation, but we need to have it with an eye on how do we make sure it doesn't happen again. So first, let's talk about what happened. What happened in November?
Okay. Now, for those who don't know Greg Palast, I wrote the book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, and made the film. And so people know me as someone who is, as an investigative reporter for The Guardian and BBC Television, Rolling Stone, investigated what we politely call vote suppression, which is just a polite term for screwing Black people out of their votes.
Okay, let me pause you for a second, because in the community that we have called Nubia, we actually screened your documentary and we had a discussion.
Wow.
Yeah, because again, we're an action show and it carries over off the airwaves because the people who listen to Urban View are engaged that way. So we kind of know what happened, those of us, but break down what happened.
Okay, so my day job is as what is called a forensic economist. I do numbers for the United States Justice Department and several attorneys general. And so I calculate the effects of government actions. This is what I do for a living. And I have to tell you that in the November election, vote suppression cost Kamala Harris 3,565,000 votes. I'm not guessing. This is my job. I actually go through all the numbers very carefully for the Justice Department. I'm also working with Black Voters Matter and the NAACP and ACLU. And so if it were not for vote suppression, Trump would have lost Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and certainly Georgia. And I'm not guessing. I'm doing some very exact calculations. And he would have lost the popular vote by about 1.5 million, and he would have certainly lost the Electoral College because Kamala Harris would have gotten 286 electoral votes if not for these vote suppression tactics. This is very serious, and we can do something about it. And so I want to talk to you about the solution, not just about the evils. For example, in 2023, the year before the election, very quietly, 4,776,706 voters, that's 500,000 voters, were purged from the voter rolls overwhelmingly.
Wait, 4 million, how many?
776,706 voters. How do I know the exact number? Because believe it or not, the government actually publishes these numbers. We have an agency called the Elections Assistance Commission. I think Trump's going to kill it off, but
I was going to ask you.
yeah,
are you still working for the Justice
problem,
Department?
believe me.
Yeah.
So they track not only votes that are cast, but they keep a record of how many voters and votes were blocked. So, for example, they also reported in the November election from their data that 2.1 million voters who cast their ballots by mail were rejected. Now, you have to understand that's now, if you're Black, the chance that you will be rejected in your mail-in ballot, technical reasons like, well, actually, even my sister, who is a lawyer, and my mother is a school teacher, they lost their votes because they didn't fill in a bubble. They put an X mark instead of a bubble next to a candidate's name. It's very dangerous to mail in your vote. I have to vote that way because I'm on the road all the time. But you have to understand that if you are Black, Hispanic or Asian American, the chance that you will have your vote rejected, are you ready for this number? Is 900% higher than if you're white. There's a 900% chance that as a black voter, you're going to have your vote disqualified on technical grounds. You put an X instead of filling in a bubble. You didn't include your middle initial on the return envelope, even though you're registered with your middle initial. Just these cockamamie gotcha things. And they are targeting voters of color. Again, this is, by the way, that number 900% higher that your vote will be rejected if you're black than if you're white. And we're talking over 1.2 million votes, is from the United States Civil Rights Commission, which contracted with a Harvard statistician to come up with that number. So it's not a Greg Palast number. It is
so
what
like
I'm reporting.
next year we won't have access to that because Harvard is targeted and this commission. So what I'm hearing you say is that the numbers that you have been crunching for the last 20 plus years,
yes,
will no longer even be available to crunch.
It's going to be very difficult because, see, I'm known for my investigations, and my technical investigations. I do those numbers are based on government figures, and it looks like the Trump administration is going to simply shut down the information.
Okay.
And this is really dangerous because we need to know what happened to our democracy, and I need to have these numbers. We have provisional ballots. You know, a lot of people listening to your broadcast will say, oh, I went in to vote, and they said I wasn't on the voter rolls. So here's what's called a provisional ballot. All you have to do is fill that out, and they'll count your vote. No, they won't. According, again, to the United States Elections Assistance Commission, 46%, basically almost half, 1 out of 2 provisional ballots will not be counted. They will be disqualified. And you have to understand that if you are Black, Hispanic, or Asian American, the chance you will be handed one of these ballots, which will not be counted, the chance you will be handed one of these ballots if you're a voter of color is 300% higher than if you are a white voter.
Okay.
Yep.
So
and that's again, I want to emphasize these are government statistics, not Greg Palast statistics. All I do is find them in those hidden files of the government, which I do fear are going to be closed to me soon.
All right, let's back up. Number one, the 900% likelihood of your provisional ballot being rejected, or
yes.
Is that 900%? How do they know who's Black?
Well, what they do is the brilliant statisticians, Philip Klingner and others from Harvard and others have, and I'm also a statistician by training. What we do is we take precincts, and precincts are pretty much one color or the other. And we can look at the precinct numbers and break them down and do a statistical analysis proving that it is Black voters who get their votes lost. And that, again, this is from the United States government statistics. It's not something I'm putting out. It's just all I'm doing is letting people know about these studies that are never reported, but are vitally important to saving our democracy. And it's, yes, you could say it's about Black and white, but to me, if you're just listening on radio, I'm a white guy. My parents are white. I have no problem with white people.
Okay, we just had a whole conversation about whiteness.
Yes.
So before we get, I need to hold on, Greg, hold on, because I need to prove something. Because I do respect your intellect.
Yes.
Do you know that whiteness is a made up construct?
Yes. I mean, look, it's so, this comes.
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
This is pre-genetic goes back to biblical days and Shem and all that stuff. But we didn't know about genetics. Like you said, it's ridiculous. We're one darn species and we're so mixed. Yeah, there's little melatonin and a little ice.
No, it's called melanin.
Difference.
Oh no.
Yeah,
so
melanin.
stick to statistics.
Melanin. Sorry. Yeah,
let me
but we are one species. Unless we understand that really quickly, we're all in deep trouble. And I think one of the problems we have right now, Karen, is that Trump and his allies, and I'm not partisan, but Trump and his allies are playing on the idea that, oh, if you're white, you got something special, and they're trying to take it away from you. I got to tell you, I was in Duluth, Georgia at a Trump rally just before the election. These people are being, it's sad and it's tragic to say, as you say, people are voting against their own interests. You see guys with no teeth. One guy was saying, we got to end this wokeness. We got to vote for Trump. Why? He's a chicken plucker in a chicken factory. He's got nothing. He's got no health insurance. He has nothing. But he thinks, well, I've got one thing. I've got white skin. Well, I'm sorry, buddy. You still have no health insurance. You still have no, please, okay. It's tragic. It's horrible and it's tragic.
Okay, so let's recap. 3.5 million votes Kamala Harris should have gotten that she did.
Yes.
All right. 2.1 million voters, their votes were just cast out.
Yes. Mail-in votes, yes.
And Black people are not 100% more likely to have that happen to them based on these districts, right?
Yes.
So these districts that have been heavily gerrymandered over the last 20 plus years, right? Willfully, yes. Purposefully by state legislatures, right? State yes. legislators have, commandeered, even in places like Texas, they have created apartheid situations where it's a minority rule because they've figured out how to redraw these maps so they can crack and pack Black people into one little tiny district that they can actually, because it makes it easy to control and throw away votes when you know where everybody is, right?
Yes. In fact, let me tell you something about Texas. This is very important. In my film, and by the way, people can download my film if you didn't see it through your site, is go to gregpalast.com and you can see the film Vigilantes Inc. for free, thanks to Jamie Foxx and Leonardo DiCaprio, who are finances, so you can stream it for free. Just go to gregpalast.com, Vigilantes Inc.
It will make you angry. One of the things we put in the film. I'm just warning you, you will be very angry. Very angry.
Well, you'll be very, yes, but maybe I'm hoping you'll be more than angry. I'm hoping you'll be activated. But one thing we showed in the film is Ken Paxton, the Republican Attorney General of Texas. Now, Paxton said if he didn't stop the people of Houston from getting ballots to mail in, Trump would have lost Texas. Now, think about that. Texas. Trump would have lost Texas if they let everyone vote. Now, a lot of your listeners may not know that Houston is the city with the largest Black population in the United States. People think Chicago or Atlanta. No. It's Houston. And what they did was the commissioner in Houston, the first Black commissioner Houston, Harris County has ever had, said, well, look, it's COVID. We got to send out ballots to people. And so they don't have to wait in line and get sick and die. And it was stopped by Ken Paxton, the Republican Attorney General. And because of that, he actually proudly claims that if he hadn't stopped the mail-in ballots out of Houston, Trump would have lost Texas, and then he would have lost the United States. This is happening all over America. So we had a Jim Crow election, and people have to understand that so we can prevent it again in 2 years, in 26 next year, and in 28. It's not whether I'm pro-democratic or Republican, pro-Trump or anti-Trump. I'm pro-democracy. And I think that everyone should be allowed to vote, including Black people. And we still haven't recognized that in the United States. Not yet.
So what's the solution? Because
I'm going to take it.
Hold on. Go ahead. I suspect you will not have access to numbers. And I also suspect that Starlink did do something to some machines. Because the little ex-boy told us that daddy did something with the machines. It's a secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. But he told everybody. So we know something in some of these machine places, votes got flipped. You're not going to tell me otherwise.
Well, I got to tell you that the main issue is the suppression of voters of color. And that's the real issue that we can stop. And how do you stop it? There's two ways. Number one, protect your own vote and people in your families. I want everyone listening to this broadcast, and listen to me carefully, check your registration online. Every state allows you to check your registration online. If you don't see your registration, and that's happened to me, but it's happened to literally millions of Black people, re-register, register, re-register, then re-register, then re-register, and 60 days before the next election, please check your registration. And if you have to, re-register. If you move down the street, the law says you don't have to change your registration, but you better do it, because they're going to knock you off the voter rolls. They're going to take renters who move from one apartment in a building to another. They're going to try to take away your vote. It's not legal, so you better protect your own vote by checking your registration and re-registering. Now,
What
the
about
second thing.
hold on. What about women? Because there's this whole thing with women who get married and they change their name or don't change their name. Yeah,
yes.
Tell us.
There's an executive order, and go to gregpalast.com. You can read all about it. It'll scare you. Trump signed an executive order that you have to prove your citizenship to register to vote. And by the way, that means if you re-register, you move to another county, you move to a suburb or something, you change your address, you have to re-register. You now have to prove your citizenship. Well, you say, well, hey, I'm an American citizen. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. The only proof you have of citizenship in America is your passport, and only 1 in 3 Black people have passports. The second thing is your original birth certificate. And let me emphasize, not a copy. You have to have your original birth certificate to register to vote. Your original birth certificate to register to vote. And like I say, or your passport. Now, most Americans, white, Black, otherwise, don't have passports, but especially people of color don't have passports, because how many people travel to Switzerland for vacation in the Alps?
Well, we're definitely
right?
not doing that, but we may go to Jamaica.
Yeah.
Great
So,
Palast.
so I know some rich people who do that, and they're very white. And I was in the Alps, and I didn't see a Black person. So what's happening is, let's face it, when they're talking about citizenship, now Black people didn't come to America voluntarily. Let's remember that. Okay. Dragged here and then told you're not a citizen now because you can't prove your citizenship with your passport. This is ugly stuff. So I want everyone to make sure that you re-register. Please go find your original birth certificate. If you haven't applied for a passport, please do so. I know this is crazy just to vote. Americans should be allowed to vote. And here's the thing, Karen. If there really were massive fraud, if there really were all these non-citizens voting, then I'd say, okay, well, then we need some type of proof of citizenship. But it doesn't exist. In Florida, back in one election, I checked it. The state of Florida accused 189,000 Floridians of not being citizens. And believe it or not, their names were like Gomez and Hernandez, you name it. Obviously, Hispanic names,
But the majority of Hispanics voted for him, according to the exit polls.
49% of Hispanic women, not Hispanic men, excuse me. Most Hispanic women voted against Trump, but Hispanic men was about 50-50.
Oh, 54% of Hispanic men?
Yes. And yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. When they charge 189,000 Floridians of being undocumented illegal aliens, they found only one out of 189,000. Only one was an illegal alien, and he was a white Austrian Republican. One out of 189,000, but they made tens of thousands of people have to take a day off, go into court, and prove that they were Americans. That's just, it's ill-making. But we have to expect this, and we have to protect our own votes. So take all the measures you can. Go find that original birth certificate. Apply for a passport, even if you don't expect to go to Spain next month. Please protect yourself. We got to fight back for your rights as an American citizen. It's just that simple.
All right, let me correct myself. 55% of Hispanic men voted for this. So, Listen. Well,
Because
listen.
they get to vote for them before they get deported.
60-something% of white identified men and 53% of white identified, the majority. The reason why we're here is because white people are wedded to whiteness, period. Because they didn't vote their interests. They didn't vote their pockets. They didn't vote eggs and gas. They voted their color. And this is what they perceive to be their color and their power that they want to get back. They want to get back to the place where they could tell me to jump off of a curb and avert my eyes and say yes'm. This is what they voted for. And it overwhelmingly, because you make up 50-something% of the population. So that number mattered. That 90-something%, 92% of black women and almost 80% of black men did the right thing. We only make up 14 to 15% of the population. Not enough to make the difference that we needed to make, but we did our job, which is why I'm going to do everything I can, Greg, but I'm at a point where I'm like, this is what y'all want. We're going to take our
but
cookies.
We also have
wait, hold on. This is how I'm feeling right now. We're going to take our $1.6 trillion that we were putting into this economy without anything back, because the dollar only circulates hours in our community. We're going to start building infrastructure and industry in our own community and circulate that dollar. And maybe you don't get access to that. And especially in the wake of this economy doing what it's doing, because we got a whole ass chaos agent in office. Maybe then uncle will be said. But I'm feeling some ways, but we got to show up in the midterms. I'm not telling people not to vote, but I'm saying we are always going to do what we need to do. We need something to show for it, is what I'm saying.
Well, you better vote, because if you watch my film Vigilantes Inc., again, stream it free at gregpalast.com. If you watch the film, the hero of the film, the star of the film, is Major Gamaliel Turner of Georgia. He is a career military expert for the Pentagon. He was assigned to Fort Hueneme in California, and he was denied his vote because a Republican official said, "Well, he doesn't live in Georgia, so he can't vote." No, I'm sorry. If you're a black soldier assigned to another base, you get to vote, white or black. Soldiers are allowed to vote absentee. They denied him his absentee ballot. And they told him, all you have to do is come in and prove you're a citizen, you live in Georgia. Well, he's in California. And he said, "You mean you're telling me all I have to do is fly 2,700 miles tomorrow to get my vote?" By the way, he did. He actually flew round trip 5,000 miles to Georgia to save his vote, but that was one vote. 4,000 men, mostly African-American soldiers in the Fort Benning area, were denied their right to vote. And what he says is, anyone who tells me I don't want to vote, I don't care, that's hurting him. You can't let Major Turner, you can't let him down. His father was a co-founder with Martin Luther King of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
I'm going to pause you. Anytime you are in the company of Latasha and Cliff from Black Voters Matter, NAACP,
my team,
or on Urban View, you cannot lecture black people. We showed up. We showed up in numbers that exceeded any other group in this country. We voted for our interests, and we voted for the interests of people who didn't even vote for their own interests. We showed up for our democracy and our rights and our freedoms.
That's right.
You don't have to give me any backstory and any anecdotes to cajole us into doing something that we're going to do anyway, because we're never voting for Democrats and Republicans. We're voting for our own liberation and our rights and the ability to move about the cabin. We showed up in numbers.
Exactly. That's exactly the attitude we need. It's not about Democrats or Republicans. It's about claiming and demanding your rights. And that includes for me, because if a black person's vote gets disqualified, then my vote's just been canceled. This is a democracy. It's supposed to be.
Okay.
We cannot lose anyone's vote.
So other than checking our registration, making sure we have an original birth certificate to make sure we can register, other than frequently, and this is something we were saying leading up to the election, check your registration, check your every day we were doing that. So again, we're not the problem.
No.
What else can we do in the wake of this insanity where you won't even be able to get numbers? We won't even be able, is there something we could do at the polls? Can we be if more of us are poll workers? Can we have a strategy where we can reverse the gerrymandering? Like, what are you? Is this in your bailiwick? Is this in your?
Oh,
wheelhouse?
absolutely. I testified in federal court for Black Voters Matter for Latasha Brown and Cliff Albright because I'm a statistician. So I was proud to testify for them and do these analyses of the voter rolls where they removed. We actually gave the court, Black Voters Matter, working with them. I gave them 198,000 names of voters, almost all of them Black, who were illegally removed from the voter rolls on grounds they didn't live in Georgia. And they're all right there at their addresses. And those names and addresses, by the way, I didn't estimate or any of that. It was an exact listing of 198,000 individual voters with their names and addresses. We got help from, actually, interestingly, from the consultants for Microsoft and Amazon to go through every name on the lists of people that they removed from the voter rolls. So can I ask people, consider joining Black Voters Matter Fund? Join the NAACP of Georgia in particular, but Gerald Griggs, who's president, he's a tremendous litigator and on the side of democracy. Join NAACP. And also my good friend for 50 years, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Please join the Reverend and join Rainbow Push Coalition. Get active because they're going after you. The other side is active. They're going after democracy. Yeah, so we have no choice. And I'm asking you, and I have nothing particular brilliant things to say, except we've done it before. We got active with Rainbow Push, NAACP, Black Voters Matter Fund now. These organizations are stellar fighters on the front line. Please join with them to encourage them, to support them, and to engage in the activities that they take to protect our votes, everyone's vote.
Based on your stats, how many people did not vote in 2024? What's the actual number?
Well, we had, I know it was over 10 million people didn't vote that had voted 4 years before.
Okay.
The big problem I have is that so many people, when they say all these people didn't vote, they
said 90 million. That's the number that people are saying. Is that accurate? You know what?
Well, I mean,
looking
of
at
all
our time.
the people registered that didn't vote. No, you actually had, just so you know, Black people have the highest turnout of any racial group in America, more than white people.
This is why we will not be lectured to.
Experience Karen Hunter in a completely different way. Karen Hunter is awesome. The podcast.
If you like me on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, you're gonna love me. And Karen Hunter is awesome. Hey, this is Karen Hunter, host of the Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM's Urban View. Karen Hunter is awesome is an actual podcast to bring heat and energy and knowledge and power. A 1-2 punch that I don't think you get anyplace else. Tell the truth. Check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. You will not be disappointed.